Hello, it's Mrs. Rowe, and I'm going to read Vincent van Gogh, Sunflowers and Swirly Stars by Brad Bucks and Joan Holub. Vincent van Gogh, Sunflowers and Swirly Stars by Joan Holub. Dear class, our unit on famous artists is almost over. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. I am excited to read your reports. Here are some questions that you may want to think about. Why did you pick your artist? If you could ask your artist 3 questions, what would they be? Did you learn anything that really surprised you? Good luck and have fun. Miss Brandt. So this is a student's report. Stories of the not rich and not famous. Did you think that Vincent van Gogh got rich from being an artist? I did. I heard on TV that one of his paintings sold for over 82 million. It's called The Portrait of Dr. Gachet. Painting would be a cool way to earn lots of money. I thought that Van Gogh was lucky to have earned that much for just one picture. That's why I picked him for my artist. And then around the edges it says, Start. Vincent van Gogh wrote lots of letters. He made notes and drew pictures of people, places, and ideas on the sides of his letters. So I wrote and drew pictures on the sides of my report. This is Dr. Gachet. He was Vincent's friend. But then I found out the truth. Van Gogh was poor his whole life. He did not become famous until after he died. When Vincent was a boy. Vincent van Gogh was born on March 30th, 1853. He lived in a little town in Holland named Groot Zundert, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. His father was a preacher, and his mother was a housewife. There were 6 kids in his family. He was the oldest. I know what that's like. I have a little brother and a little sister, and I'm the oldest too. And then on the top it says Vincent, his brothers and sisters, and Theo. And then on the bottom left it says, Vincent painted this self-portrait. You can see his red hair, but not his freckles. And right here, Vincent was 13 in this picture. So it's a real photo. Vincent's favorite brother was named Theo. Theo always tried to help him out of trouble, and Vincent got in plenty of that. School was no fun for Vincent. He got bad grades and had a hard time making friends. He quit school when he was only 16. And then it says, I drew this picture of me by looking in the mirror. That's how Vincent painted his self-portrait too. And right here it says, my brother painted his self-portrait. He's only 4. Around the edges it says, Theo followed Vincent around when he was little. Vincent gets lucky. This is the art gallery where Vincent worked. Luckily, Vincent's uncle gave him a job at an art gallery in Holland. This was his first big break. At home, Vincent didn't get to go to art museums. There weren't any art books around either. But at his new job, Vincent saw art all day long, so he really liked it. He was so good at his job that his boss gave him a promotion. He sent him back to work in an art gallery in London, England, and things were looking up. When Vincent moved away, I think he really missed Theo. Vincent wrote lots of letters to his brother. He drew pictures all around the edges of the paper. They were pictures of buildings and interesting things he saw. In those days, most people didn't have cameras. It's a good thing Vincent could draw. And so there's a drawing that Vincent van Gogh did in a letter to his brother Theo. And then it said Vincent wrote this letter to Theo in Dutch, not English. At the top, he drew a picture. And then all around the edges, the student wrote little letters. Vincent messes up. Soon Vincent was in trouble again. He fell in love with a woman who didn't love him back. He felt sad all the time. Sometimes he forgot to go to work. Guess what? He lost his job. Now Vincent needed a new job. He tried being a teacher. That didn't work out. He tried selling books in a bookstore. That didn't work either. Then he tried to be a preacher. Nope. Vincent felt like a failure when these jobs didn't work out. So it says, a job hunt, a game for one player, Vincent van Gogh. Start here. Hey, maybe Vincent could sell art. And then he got to the art gallery. Nope. How about teaching school? He's at the school. Nope. Dead end number 2. Maybe selling books? Dead end number 3. Nope. Preaching? Church? Nope. Now what? It says no work zone. Vincent starts painting. Next, Vincent decided to be a painter. He didn't start out as a great artist. Most artists begin painting when they're a lot younger than he was. Vincent had a lot of catching up to do. He practiced by copying other artists at first. 2 of his favorites were Rembrandt van Rijn and Jean-Francois Millet. They painted with dark colors, so Vincent did too. And so here's one of his paintings. It says, "Guess what the people in the potatoes are eating?" Vincent wanted to paint pictures of things he cared about. There were lots of poor people in Vincent's neighborhood. He worried about them. He painted a picture of them and called it The Potato Eaters. Vincent worked on the picture for months. He was proud of it, but the colors are dark and the people look sad. I don't like it, and nobody else did either. And so, here, I'll bring it closer. Time to move. Vincent went to live in Paris, France in 1886. He met lots of other artists there. Many of them, like Claude Monet, are famous today. But back then, they were just struggling artists like Vincent. In Vincent's time, artists painted pictures to look real, almost like photographs. Some artists began experimenting. They put their feelings into their paintings, and their brush strokes showed. These artists were nicknamed Impressionists because they painted their impressions of things people saw, and people were shocked by their art. And it says, what's that? Flowers, of course. And that's Monet. Vincent made friends with artists named Paul Signac and Georges Seurat. They painted in a style called Pointillism. Up close, their pictures look like a mess of dots, but from far away, they look like regular paintings. And this is a painting by Georges Seurat, and you can see the dots if you look at it close up. And so this is a close-up of the grass. Can you see the dots? It says dots, dashes, swirls, dots. Paul Signac tried to get Vincent to paint with dots. Instead of just dots, Vincent tried something else. He painted with dashes and swirls. While he was in Paris, Vincent saw some Japanese paintings. They really wowed him. Japanese artists painted with bright colors. They left the shadows out of their paintings, and they drew outlines around some things. Vincent tried these ideas in his paintings. And it said, Vincent saw this magazine in Paris to practice, and he painted a copy of it. And there's Vincent's copy. Vincent's favorite paint colors before Paris, and it was brown, dark brown, dark green, very dark green, tan. And then after Paris, blue, purple, red, orange, yellow, green. Best buddies. The best thing about Paris was that Theo lived there too. Vincent and his brother became roommates. Sounds great, huh? Wrong. Vincent was a pest. He liked to argue. He was messy, too. Sometimes he just tried too hard. He got so excited about painting that he drove other people crazy. Theo's friends didn't like Vincent. They wouldn't come over anymore. Theo wanted Vincent to move out. After 2 years, he finally did. Vincent and Theo stayed best buddies, even though they fought a lot. Everyone else ignored Vincent's paintings. Theo always told him how good they were. And then it says start. When Vincent left Paris, he left a lot of his paintings behind at Theo's house. He hoped they would keep Theo company. He didn't want Theo to miss him too much. I'm sorry, my cat is meowing. Keep trying to record this. I agree with Theo. I think Vincent's pictures are great. Everything in them looks alive and moving. The sky, the trees, even people's clothes and skin. This portrait is of Vincent's friend, Pierre Tanguay. He sold paint to artists in Paris. You can see Japanese art behind him. You can see all those lines, his brushstrokes. That was done in 1887, which is 100 years before I was born. Sunflowers. Vincent left Paris and headed south to Arles, France. He moved into a house that he shared with another painter named Paul Gauguin. The house was yellow. Yellow was Vincent's favorite color. Vincent painted all the time in Arles. He got better and better at it. He liked to paint pictures of people, but there was something else he liked to paint. Flowers. Every morning he got up early and picked a bunch of those yellow sunflowers that grew near his house. And here's Vincent painted picture of his house in Arles. There's a picture of it. Vincent would paint still life pictures of the sunflowers until they got droopy. Sometimes he painted 2 sunflower pictures in one day. His sunflower paintings look happy. I think he was in a good mood when he painted them. And then it says, I feed sunflower seeds to birds in my yard. This is called 14 sunflowers in a vase. I count 15 though. I wonder how many you can count. Work, work, work. Vincent was so busy working that he didn't make many friends, but he mailed so many letters that he did make friends with the postman, Joseph Rulin. So there's the picture of him. Vincent loved to work. One time he painted 18 pictures in just 26 days. He painted fast because he wanted to get his feelings onto the picture before he forgot them. Vincent's paintings took weeks to dry because he put his paint on really thick. He even squirted it onto the picture straight from the tube when he was in a hurry. He was always buying more paint. Paint, brushes, and canvas cost a lot of money. Sometimes Vincent had to choose between paint or food. He didn't have enough money for both. He chose paint. He must have really loved painting. Theo wasn't rich either, but he believed in Vincent 100%. He wanted him to be able to paint as much as he wanted, so Theo bought as much paint as he could for Vincent. He even sent him allowance. I don't know how much. Weirdo? Vincent didn't like to paint from his imagination. He usually went outside to paint things he saw. He painted all day in the hot sun. When it got dark, he stuck candles in his hat and he just kept working. The people in Arles thought Vincent was weird because he did things like that. As usual, Vincent didn't have many friends. He couldn't sell any paintings, and he was lonely and sad. And then it says, I wonder if this mirror is the one Vincent used to paint his self-portraits. Vincent's shirt and hat are hanging on the wall. No closet, I guess. This is a picture Vincent painted of his room in the yellow house in Arles. And then down here it says, I made this picture of my room. I I have to share with my brother like Vincent did with Theo. My brother's mess. My side is clean, usually. So Vincent had passed away, and now Vincent's paintings are in museums all over the world. I have never seen a painting by Vincent van Gogh, but I hope I will someday. Vincent van Gogh was the biggest star of all. It said Vincent named this picture Starry Night. I like his swirly stars. I think it's his best painting. And the vocabulary words, these are the words I learned from reading about Vincent van Gogh. Portrait is a painting or picture of a person. A self-portrait, a portrait a person makes of himself or herself. A still life, a painting or picture of things that are not alive. And I skipped his answer because I would like you to come up with things that surprised you about Vincent van Gogh and things that you learned about him. And it said, "Dear Mrs. Brandt, this is my artist report. I learned so much about Vincent van Gogh. Did you know that his paintings took weeks to dry? That's because he put his paint on so thick. Brad Bucks." The end.